All right, should we get started?
Shut the door.
Perfect.
I'm just shutting the door, Sal.
Okay, if everyone could just go on mute. So, yeah, welcome everyone. So this is our first annual or triannual update. I think we're going to do 3 in a year, but just our first update for the year from Building Smart that we're doing for our members. So just before we start, just pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land, wherever that may be for you. My name's Eric Majaya, the chairman of Building Smart, and we've got the board here today. We're not going to, I guess we're going to go through a few different things, but we're going to try and keep these fairly short and concise as a bit of an update to supplement the newsletters that we provide. So for those of you who aren't aware, we had our board vote in December last year. Nathan's, we're going to thank him for his time on the board last year. So Nathan's now dropped off the board. Lee Gregory, welcome to the board. So Lee's now joined the board of Building Smart. And he's our only new member. The rest are the same as before, same old faces. So who we are, and I guess most of you are members, so we won't spend a lot of time on this, but there's 4, I guess, key things that Building Smart do. We're the owner and the maintainer of the IFC standard and really a lot of the open BIM standards, not just IFC, but some of the other open standards in the AEC space. We do a bit of advocating work, and we'll talk a bit about that in the update today, particularly here in Australia and New Zealand, in advocating for not just open BIM, but for the digitisation of the AEC sector. Education, and we'll talk a bit about that today with some new things that are happening in the certification space, and Holger will take us through that in the update today. And just facilitating and bringing industry together, just to share best practice and talk about best practice. So first update will be on IFC and IFC 4.3 particularly. I guess this is probably one of the big areas in the IFC space. So I might just throw over to Jim and John to give a bit of an update on IFC 4.3 and where things are at with that. So over to you, Jim.
Thanks, Eric. I'll be fairly quick. I think most of you are aware that the IFC 4.3 extensions were finalised, as it were, in the middle of last year. And we've reported that last year. There's been a lot of work since then, primarily around certification. That is, how to certify software against the new IFC 4.3 standard. It has now that's mainly to do with the development of model view definitions and all the technology that underlies that, and that's all the technology that surrounds that. That work will be ongoing because as you appreciate, IFC is a very complex schema, and in order to implement it in any given domain or for any given type of exchange related to a domain, it needs to be refined. So we need to have agreements on how things should be modeled and represented, and what sort of objects and what sort of properties should be in that part of that exchange. So that work is ongoing. There's also a piece of work that had to be done by bSA centrally around some of the other domains. So although IFC 4.3 is developed primarily as an extension for infrastructure, for road, rail, bridge, and so on, it also needs to be updated in respect to some building domain work. And so that work has also been done. And so there's now a final release of IFC 4.3. It's been submitted to ISO for voting to become an ISO standard. And in fact, the DIS voting, the draft international standard voting for that, will occur over the next couple of months. So there is now a final version of IFC 4.3, and it's available on the Building Smart website. And over the next several months, there'll be ballots for the ISO adoption, and that should occur. That should be finalised early next year and published as an ISO standard. I think that's really all I need to say, but I'm happy to answer questions about it.
Also should add that I guess a lot of the major vendors now have beta versions of their software where they're testing and trialing 4.3 as beta versions. And we're running in Australia with some of our members just doing some trials as well with some of those beta versions and some of the vendors. So if anyone's interested in that, just let us know. We can get you on that little committee. I think there's a meeting this Thursday that's being sort of chaired by Scott Beasley, and he's running that. And we're just doing some testing. TFNSW are involved with that as well, just to take some data sets and see what's working, what's not, and feed that back to bSA. Okay, thanks, Jim. Thanks for that. We might just go through the update, and then we can, if we've got time for questions at the end, we can just take some questions. The next thing, and I think we started with this a little bit, but for those of you who weren't on the call earlier, so congratulations to John Mitchell, who's on the call. He's been appointed to the Building Smart International Regulatory Room Steering Committee. So that's a new room that's being set up looking at some of the regulatory standards. I don't know, John, if you're on the call, I don't know how much you know about it. You might want to just give it a bit of an update of what that room constitutes and what will be involved.
Thanks, Eric. Look, we have our first meeting tonight at the laudable hour of 11 o'clock. Our first item on the agenda is to resolve meeting times. No, I've just been this morning sifting through some of the material. They've made a lot of progress since I took any interest in this 4 or 5 years ago. If any one of you listened to the summit, the bSA summit this week, or last week, or whenever it was, there was some quite interesting material presented at that. And just as a little additional item, in waiting for one of the other sessions, I watched the airport room session, and there they had 2 presentations on the adoption of georeferencing. So really good to see that the international community is starting to use that. And that bit of work that Lee Gregory and Neil Brown here in Australia did an enormous amount of work on, now starting to bear some fruit. So I'm hoping for the same opportunities in the regulatory room, but it's a bit early for me to be specific about what we might do. Thanks.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of discussion at the moment in Australia around building, particularly in the building space or in regulation. So it's probably a hot topic at the moment. Don, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add from a bSA perspective.
No, I think it's important, though, obviously, to have John being able to feed back directly to us. Like you say, it's a very topical point, this regulation, and the potential, obviously, of the bSA or Building Smart approach is, assisting with automation in this and making the, examining the possibilities of making it a lot easier to set up these regulatory management, I guess, of materials, for example. That's a very hot topic, how that might be managed, how regulations might be achieved using, and then it sort of really dovetails back into the whole use of IFC, the format, and just another brick in the wall of building this sort of digital capability using open standards. So I think it's a great move, and it's a great recognition to John, obviously, to be part of that, and having an Australian connection to that room is a huge benefit to us.
Yeah, there are actually 11 people on the committee. There's Sheila, who's the coordinator, so there's 10. So it's 10 chapters are on, and all of them have some substantive projects in the wing. So I'll definitely be trying to report on this as regularly as possible.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks, John. Thanks, Don. Next topic. So in terms of the advocacy side, and I guess Building Smart's been involved with a few different submissions and different groups over the years. So just some of them that are probably quite current. So last year, and I think end of last year, we submitted a few papers to the federal government's inquiry into procurement practices for government-funded infrastructure. So Building Smart had a submission together with Lean Construction. We were also on the ABAB submission and the Australian Constructors Association submission. That report's just been released. I think it was released last week, and it was good to see you can see some of the key recommendations that came from that report that hopefully will get acted on. So it does call out open BIM, it does call out the use of BIM in the first place and the digitisation. So there was some really good recommendations that came out. It was actually a good discussion that was had. Also, in line with that, so one of the submissions from the ACA, there was an open letter that actually went to the Assistant Prime Minister, which was Barnaby Joyce, and he's finally responded to that. And we got a letter from him yesterday, I think it was, basically saying that they're open to running a roundtable to look at infrastructure and how to improve the infrastructure delivery in Australia. So we don't know if Barnaby Joyce will still be in power by the time that roundtable happens, but talking to John Davies at ACA, he said, well, it doesn't matter who's in power at the time. I think there's both sides of politics are keen, and it's one of the focus areas of improving the delivery of infrastructure in Australia. So I think that's really great that, we're starting to get listened to a little bit at the federal level. And I think one thing that was in that letter from Barnaby, that they want to bring all levels of government together to talk about it and not just make it one level of government, because I know federal government probably doesn't deliver a lot of infrastructure. A lot of it's done through the states. So that's really good. That's a really good outcome. And you'll see when Audrey talks about it on our website, we'll also put some of our submissions and other things that we've been doing up on our website as well, so members can see what we've been involved with as well and where you can get involved as well. Recently, we also presented at BILT, where we had an open industry discussion. So a few representatives there. It was a really good discussion, actually, from different areas of government, Queensland Government, TFNSW, Women in BIM, State Government of New South Wales, NatSpec. So there was a really good open discussion there at that forum at the BILT conference a few weeks back in Sydney. And I might throw to Lee or anyone else who wants to talk about this, but we had our first in a series of technical sessions, and this was based on feedback we had from our members about having more technical sessions. So Lee, I don't know if you want to talk about the first technical session that we ran on the use of AFC in the field on linear infrastructure.
Yes, we had a excellent turn up for it, and Trimble actually had sponsored these ones, so there'll be a series of them coming up. In this case, we talked about, yes, how people are using IFC and BIM in the field. For those who are interested in these seminars, I think you'll find them very interesting, because not very many people come up with use cases, and we're insisting in them that we only want to hear about things where they're using IFC. So there won't be waffle on other things vendors do. It'll be all about how they're using IFC, and hopefully for the future ones as well, and they mention them here, any problems they're having. Since for all of us to know about what problems there are means we can at least try and fix them. So any of those of you in linear infrastructure, there'll be, I think, 3 or 4 more of these coming up. Please come along and give us all your feedback, as well as what you'd like to hear about, because we want real use cases, and also to know the problems as much as how well they went. And it's all about using IFC in these use cases. Thanks. Thanks,
Lee. And that's an important point. It's not just about how great it is; it's about what are the challenges and what people are doing to work around those challenges. Until we and then feedback to bSA as well, what improvements need to be made based on those real use cases. So, yep, the first series we ran was on linear infrastructure, but the other ones we'll try and, I guess, have these series across a few different fields and a few different areas as we put them forward. So yeah, feel free to feedback and give us advice on what you want to hear more of. So the education piece. So I'll throw over to Holger to talk about PCERT and what we're doing there. Sorry, Holger.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, as some of you might already know, BIMcreds will transition to PCERT this month. So we will replace that certification program with an international certification program that was developed or is being developed by Building Smart International, being implemented not just in Australia, has already been implemented in Europe, Asia, and the Americas. And the goal is basically to provide an international framework that organizations can use to develop training material, training courses that are all based on the same kind of framework, and therefore having then an international benchmark that people can get certified against. The first PCERT program that will go online is the Foundation Basic. So that's the first module that is being launched in Australasia. There will be more in the future. We're working on others as well, so stay tuned on that. If you're interested in becoming certified, our new website is going online definitely by the end of the week, maybe a bit earlier, so keep an eye on that. There will be more information on the PCERT program, the professional certification program, how it works and how you could get certified. We're currently in the process to also getting approved training providers for the Australasian region. So if you want to be certified, where can you sign up for courses to be prepared for the exam? Because Building Smart itself is just providing the exam platform, the testing platform, but we do not provide courses or training. So that will be done by training providers in the industry. And by saying this, we're also inviting everyone who's interested to become a approved training provider. Please let us know. You can apply to become an approved training provider for the PCERT program. And then we can send you all the information you need to become such a person or organization. To become an approved training provider, you need to become an educational supporter first. So you need to be a member of Building Smart. This is one of the requirements we have. Also, there will be more information on that on the new website, or just feel free to just contact us directly, and then we can send you the information that give you more insights on it. Do we have another slide, or was that the?
I think that was it. But it might be worth mentioning as well that anyone who has BIM creds, I think we've got with 12 months where you don't have to do a course in order to sit the exam. So any existing people who have done BIM creds to this date can just undertake the exam without having to do one of the certified course. But after the 12 months, you basically need to do a certified course in order to do the exam and become certified. And we can also certify internal company programs as well, as a company can provide their own training internally and get that certified as well. So that's another option.
Good point.
Audrey, so the new website, which we've been trying to get launched for a while, so it's looking good. So you want to talk about that? You're on mute, Audrey.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
So this is our new website, our new little baby. It's taken a lot of back and forth, minimizing anyone who's been on our website recently. It's basically an ode to 1990s internet technology. So yeah, we're really excited about this one. We've streamlined everything down to just the major stuff. Our supporters, who we're so grateful for, contact information, event calendar here. Our event calendar at the moment, there's not a ton for me to be putting up on there. A lot of the kind of local BIM groups are still on hold with their events and things. If you guys know of anything going on within industry, or you come across anything that you think is interesting or that you think everyone else in our membership base could benefit from, please don't hesitate to send that stuff through. We've got a whole section dedicated to it. It's the same as our current event calendar. It's just plugged into the main website now. Just different sections on kind of what we're doing. We've got our board up there, what we're about, history of bSA, access to our constitution, submission work that we're doing. That's all being updated today before we launch tomorrow. There's a whole new section on the PCERT. So BIM Creds is no longer going to be on the website, but like Holger said, if anyone is interested in becoming a registered training provider, this is the way to read through and get in touch about that. And then with our new membership tiers, essentially, we've just added the educational and educational supporter packages, as well as the training providers. So have a look there if you guys are interested. That is separate to just the basic level kind of corporate membership or individual executive membership that's paid. And then obviously, we're really working on building our just general membership, even including the free members. So you don't get as many benefits with that if you ever want to run for the board or have a say in kind of what happens internally. The executive membership for $300 a year is the way to go, but we are kind of opening up what the individual free members get as well. So obviously you guys can tune into the quarterly updates and you get all the newsletter notifications and things like that. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're working with. There will be, if you are an executive member, there will be an exclusive executive member portal coming through where you can sign in. But we've basically had to work with a bunch of different platforms with that to figure out which one's going to suit us best. And it's still in the finalization process. So that's not ready yet, but the general website will be from the end of this week.
That's great. Thanks, Audrey. So once that membership portal's open, I guess there'll be a whole lot of content there exclusive for members. So some of the recordings, some of the sessions, so some of the stuff that we provide access to for our members. So I think that's it. That's the overall update. So happy to open up for questions. Maybe the best way to do this is just put your hand up in the little virtual hand box if you've got a question. We can go from there. I can see a lot of silence happening here. Oh, here we go.
Oh, a hand.
How come I can't see that hand? Who's that?
It's Russ.
Oh, Russ.
It's me.
Hey, Russ.
Hey, John. Yeah, just with the bSA, is that sort of access to the exam available now, or is it not going to be opened up until you get the website live later this week?
Well, you need to basically, if you want to go for it and you have not done the PIN creds before, you will have to sign up with a training provider to do the course first before you can do the exam. If you already have a BIM cred certification, then you basically just drop us an email that you're interested in it, and then you will be sent through some material which is called a fast track application, where you just give us your information in terms of the certificate so we can check if that is the case. And if that is positive, then you will be approved to go directly for the fast track certification, and you will be invited for an online exam.
Okay, cool.
Russ, I think you have all of them, don't you?
Yes, I do. So I just wondered when that was. I know it's been in emails and newsletters and stuff for a while, but I didn't know when it was properly live.
Yeah, that's good to go pretty much from now on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. No worries. Thanks.
Thanks, Ross. Actually, I might. I know that Scott Beasley, you're on the line. I don't know if Scott, if you want to give a bit of an overview and update on what's happening with the IFC 4.3 work. I know you got a session happening this Thursday, but it might be a good opportunity to just update and plug some of that work that's going on. I know I'm throwing you on the spot a little bit here. If you're able to talk. That looks like a no.
Sounds like a no.
Sounds like a no. All right. I guess if there's no more questions, we might leave it there. So yeah, that's basically the update. Feel free, if you do have questions and you don't want to ask them in a group environment, feel free to just email them to you through to either Audrey or myself. Jim's got a question.
Jim, you don't have to raise your hand. You're on the board.
It's not actually a question. It's something I should have mentioned. One of the things that the bSA infrastructure steering committee is doing is running strategic roadmap workshops on a national or local basis. And there's so far been two run, one in Germany, one in Finland. I've put my hand up in that context to run a workshop in Australia, but I've been lazy and haven't actually activated that as yet. But I just want to put you all on notice that we would like to run a workshop. The aim is to answer the question, what next? Having delivered IFC 4.3, and there's a couple of ongoing projects associated with that to finalize it. But really, what are the other needs in the infrastructure space for standardization? What are the other topics that are appropriate? And of course, how do we handle this migration, if you like, to BIM for infrastructure at a local level? And of course, a lot of that work's being done through Scott's working group, but I would like to get some input from our Australasian partners, just exactly what might be going on there. So please look out for that. We'll let you know when it's going to happen. It'll be a virtual event, I suspect. And thank you. That's all I want to say. Thanks, Larry.
All right. Thanks, Jim. So if there's no other comments, I think we'll wrap it up there. So thanks everyone for joining. I'm not sure when we do the next one of these, Audrey. I think it'd probably be about 3 months' time. We were saying 3 times a year, so it'd be 4 months' time. If I got my maths right.
We've been just kind of checking in with the board, working around everyone's schedules around that mark. It's nothing too fancy, but yeah, just whenever we can do it in the next 3 months.
Yep. But yeah, outside of that, feel free to just contact us if you want any other information. So with that, I'll leave you to the rest of your day. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, board.
Everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.